So someone commented on my last video about the Supreme Court's decision gutting the Voting Rights Act, and I want to read that comment to you directly. Matt Rapelage said, and I quote, "Drawing voting maps according to race is the very definition of racism. Thank God the courts got it right." Hey y'all, my name is Cortina. I'm a cultural strategist and I study how cultural memory and history show up in the present. So let's talk about it. Now, if you watched part 1, you know we broke down how the Supreme Court weakened the remaining teeth of the Voting Rights Act by making it significantly harder to bring Section 2 claims. If you didn't, go back and watch that video. But this comment right here, I need to address it because Matt is not alone. A lot of people believe this, and they didn't come up with it on their own. They've been taught this. That belief has a name, and it's called colorblind racism. Now, before you click off, stay with me, because this isn't just a social media debate. This is a documented legal and political strategy that has been building for decades. Colorblind racism is the idea that any policy that considers race is itself racist, that the solution to inequality is to stop seeing race, to treat everyone the same regardless of history, context, or data. And here's what that argument deliberately ignores. This country created racial inequality through law, through policy, through violence. And those outcomes don't just disappear just because you decide to ignore them. Race-conscious policies exist because the harm was race-conscious. And pretending race doesn't exist doesn't make inequality disappear. It makes it easier to ignore. And that's why this argument is so effective, because it sounds like fairness. It sounds like equality. But in practice, it does something very different. It takes the language of the civil rights movement, equality, fairness, equal protection, and it uses it to dismantle the very protections that movement fought to create. I need you to sit with that. The 14th Amendment contains the Equal Protection Clause, and it says the state cannot deny any person equal protection under the law. Those words were used by Thurgood Marshall to dismantle segregation in Brown versus Board of Education. That clause was a tool to break apart separate but equal. Now that same clause, those same words are now being used to argue that protecting Black voting power is unconstitutional. That is not accidental. It's deliberate, and it's a coordinated strategy by white supremacists and their legal allies who understood that once explicit discrimination became illegal, they would have to find another way to maintain the same outcomes. So they changed the language. The method changed. The goal did not. Here are the receipts. In 2013, Shelby County versus Holder gutted the pre-clearance provision of the Voting Rights Act. Within hours, Texas passed a strict voter ID law. In 2023, Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard ended race-conscious admissions. The man behind that case, Edward Blum, is the same man behind the effort to gut the Voting Rights Act. Same man, same strategy, different courtroom. And now, Louisiana v. Callais weakens Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And look what happens next. Florida approves a new gerrymandered map. Tennessee calls a special session to dismantle its only Black majority district. And Alabama does the same. Louisiana pauses elections to redraw maps. This is not random, y'all. This is what strategy looks like. And I want to tell you about one of the people who paid the price for the rights we are watching being stripped away. Vernon Damer said, "If you don't vote, you don't count." He wasn't just talking, he lived it. Damer was a Black landowner in Mississippi who used his store as a voter registration site because he believed his community deserved political power. And in 1966, the KKK set fire to his home with his family inside. He held them off long enough for his family to escape. He died from his injuries. He died so Black people could vote. And now, the law built on sacrifices like his is being dismantled in real time. They are louder now. We see the symbols, the salutes, the open hostility. But while that's happening out in the open, there's something quieter happening in the courts. Strategic, intentional, and ongoing, because they know you're not paying attention. They are using the very amendments that were meant to protect us to argue that protecting us is unconstitutional. So don't get distracted. Watch the courts, because this didn't start last week, and it won't end there. Vernon Damer said, "If you don't vote, you don't count." So we owe it to him to make sure that vote still counts. And as they hate to hear us say, stay woke. Part 3 is coming.